is a messianic prophecy in Isaiah, in Yeshaya. It sounds very much like what we're going through. Another focus on what's, of course, on our hearts and on our minds and on our lips, which is what is going on in Israel and really what's going on in the whole world. What is going on in the world? And I guess the premise of it all is we don't fear. That's what people want. That's the idea of terrorists, to terrorize. When we fear on the most physical plane, we empower those we fear because we're going to give them power because we're scared. And we have definitely discussed this on the spiritual plane. When you fear something, you empower it. You're giving it your energy. So whenever we give something power, we want to make sure it's where we want our power to go. And every Jew has a lot of power. Every Jew is God's only child. So if I'm fearing and thereby empowering the force of evil, I don't think that's where I want my power to go. So whatever's going on, whatever you see and whatever you hear in America or in the Middle East, we don't fear. And we have to keep reminding ourselves, everything is God. There is nothing that's not God. Humans make choices, but God runs the world. People make choices, and everything is exactly God's plan. And every Jew is God's only child. So we trust God, and then we can look at the world with confidence and maybe watch less news and read less news, because that helps too. Because sometimes the excessive watching and reading and watching and reading and watching and reading is very demoralizing. Just makes the situation very bleak. It makes it feel like hopeless, helpless, and the world's against us, and all of those negative thoughts. So healthy is space. Try not to watch, try not to read, and keep reminding yourself, this is God's world. This is God's world. The Jewish people are God's children. This is God's world. He's taking care of his children. It's going to be amazing. So I want to start, that was the start, but now my next start is to thank God for the release of that captive, of that soldier that they somehow got out. And God willing, they're going to get out another 239 the same way. Not with bartering, not with giving away prisoners, but God will give each one of those 239 into our hands. It's amazing. This girl's mother works for the city of Kiryat Gat, which is where she lives. And she's in an apartment building, and her upstairs neighbor is Chabad, is Lubavitcher. And she wrote to the Lubavitcher Rebbe through the Rebbe's letters about the situation, asking for a blessing. And the Rebbe responded something along the lines of, there will be Chiyas HaMesim. They'll be like the resurrection of the dead. And she was so excited, and she told this to the girl's mother, and the girl's mother took a lot of strength from this answer. There's going to be Chiyas HaMesim. Her daughter's coming back. Her daughter coming back is like the resurrection of the dead. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And of course, each day it more and more feels like resurrection from the dead. She shared this with friends, with relatives, and with coworkers, which means all the people in the city government were all aware of this answer of the Rebbe, that it's going to be like the resurrection of the dead. And it happened. And she came out. They got her out. Somehow they got her out. And today the spokesperson of the city of Kiryat Gat said that Lubavitcher Rebbe kept his promise. There was the resurrection of the dead. She did come out. And I don't know if you've seen the videos, but it is so heartwarming and emotional to see how the entire city is celebrating. It is just so powerful. And again, such a sense that keeps coming out. We are one. We are one. This is a girl. This is a city. A whole city celebrating. This is our sister. This is our daughter. A whole city celebrating. And you see the whole city turning to God and the country turning to God. It was so powerful seeing a TV newscaster in Israel reporting that she got out, asked someone else on the set for a kippah to cover his head so he could make a blessing to thank God that she got out, which is just such an amazing expression of the transformation of the country from a very short while ago being a place where there was such a different scene. And now, literally, on TV, on the set, first thing I want to do is bless God, and I want to keep on my head to bless God properly. So it's just an amazing sense of where we are. So looking at the Torah portion, I know I've done this each week, because each week it's just amazing how the Torah portion is just expressing what we're living through. And that's, of course, what the Torah does. We're supposed to live with the times, which means live with the Torah portion. So the day of the massacre, October 7th, began the Torah portion of Bereshit, Genesis, the first portion, where the opening Rashi on this whole Torah, which began on that day, Simchas Torah, October 7th, the opening Rashi says, why are we going into history? Why are we talking about creation? Torah is supposed to tell us the rules, the laws, the commandments, the mitzvot? No. The opening concept is, there'll come a time when the nations will say, you stole this land. Say, look in the Bible, look in the scriptures, look in the Old Testament. God created the world. God gave this land to Abraham for his children, for the Jewish people. It's our land given by God. That was the first Torah portion. Very, very timely, loud, powerful message. Why is this our land? Because God gave it to us. The next week, Noah, the great flood, where the opening verses are talking about the world being full of Hamas, of violence. And it is too much Hamas, too much Hamas. We have to wash away that Hamas. We have to wash away, eradicate, obliterate that Hamas, that violence, which Rashi, as we said, the classical commentator Rashi says is robbery, and which Onkelos, another classical source, says is kidnapping. So here we have Hamas, biblically, violent, robbers, kidnappers. That was Parshas Noach. This past week, what we read in synagogue on Saturday, Lech Lecha. Lech Lecha is when God promises Abraham the land for his children, for the Jewish people forever. He says, walk, God says, walk the land, conquer it with your feet, traverse it, it becomes yours. And what else happens in Parshas Lech Lecha? His nephew is taken hostage. There's this violent war, and people are taken hostage, including Abraham's nephew, Lot. And Abram goes and fights and wins to rescue the hostages, to rescue the captives, to free Lot. That was the Torah portion of 2 days ago. Abram receiving the land and Abraham freeing the captives. What about this week? This week is Vayera. Does this week relate to what's going on? Yes, because in this week's Torah portion, Sarah, Abraham's wife, says you have to exile. You have to drive away Ishmael, who's the father of the Arab nation. This is Abraham's son. And it's hard for him. It's his first son. To drive him away, this is his fun son he finally had his old age. Yes, of course, Isaac, Yitzchak is his main child. It's a child from which the Jewish people will come. But Ishmael is also his child. Sarah says, no, he can't be around with my son, with Isaac, with Yitzchak. I see he has murderous intent. I see he's jealous of him. I see he wants to kill him. My son's not safe. You have to drive away Ishmael. And Abraham didn't know. Is he supposed to listen to this? Or maybe Sarah is just being overprotective, overly cautious, overly jealous for her son, Yitzchak, Isaac. And Abraham asked God what to do. And God says, everything Sarah says, listen to her. Listen to what she's saying. What she's saying is coming from prophetic spirit. Yes, at this point, Ishmael is not safe. He can't be around Isaac. He can't be around Yitzchak. You have to send him away. Later, in the life and times of Ishmael, he does return to God. He does repent. He is able to be with Yitzchak in certain situations. But at this point, his intent is murderous. He does want to kill him. He doesn't like this upstart who took over his position as the primary child, and at that point, only child of Abraham. He's violently jealous, fiercely like he wants to kill him, like he wants to remove him from the scene, like he wants all for himself, as we hear chanting in the streets nowadays. Sarah says, drive him away. And God said, yes. Listen to Sarah. That's the voice of prophecy in her mouth. And that's what Abraham does. And that is this week's Torah portion. Torah creates reality. We're told we need to live with the times. We need to live with the Torah portion. And surely the Torah portion is molding our reality. What we've seen again and again over these weeks is this idea of we do have power. There's a lot of spiritual power we have, and we have to use that power. And when we use that power, we do create miracles. We spoke at length about the first 2 captives, Yehudit and Natalie, and how they were freed after the mezuzahs on Yehudit's house were checked. One was found not kosher and it was replaced. how Natalie's father put up his entire house. They put up mezuzahs on, how they said psalms and psalms and psalms, and how they made a celebration, a Sudas Hodah, thanking God for the release of these women when that made no sense and it was impossible and never would be. And everyone basically viewed the captives as like already dead, perhaps completely dead and dead in our eyes. They said, no, she's coming out. She's coming out. And we're already celebrating now her release. That was Sunday, and that following Friday, they were free. This is such an important concept. And I know I've said it already more than once, but I keep coming back to it because spirituality creates salvation. The physical miracles, the military miracles we are going to see and we have seen come from the spiritual miracles that we create. And I want to just share some of the miracles. I don't remember which ones I told this class. There's so many, but I think it's good because not everyone is hearing the miracles. And then when you don't hear the miracles, you just hear a lot of negative stuff. You don't hear the positive. And you want to hear the miracles. You want to rejoice in the miracles. We said you want to avoid the news, but you want to follow the miracles. I think we spoke of a woman, and it's got highlighted when I heard someone else's story yesterday, someone else's unbelievable story of salvation, who was 48 hours in a bunker, in a bomb shelter in her house. And 12 Arab terrorists were trying to break down that bomb shelter for 48 hours and they couldn't get in. And it's just when you think, and I was hearing yesterday different stories of both survivors and not survivors of how the Jews went into the bomb shelters in their houses, because everyone there has bomb shelters because they're always sending missiles, and how the Arabs broke down the bomb shelters violently, of course. And here's this one old woman in a bomb shelter. 12 Arabs for 48 hours can't break down that bomb shelter. And what miracle was she creating for herself? Saying again and again and again, thank you, God. Thank you, God, for helping me. Thank you, God, for protecting me. Thank you, Rebbe, for helping me. Thank you, Lubavitcher, for protecting me. Thank you, Jews all over the world, for everything you're doing that right now is protecting me and saving me. She said that for 48 hours, and for 48 hours, the terrorists could not break down the wall of her bomb shelter. Makes no sense, but is true. After those 48 hours, when the soldiers conquered back the settlement, and when she came out and when the soldiers saw her, they were shocked. They didn't think anyone survived. How could anyone survive? The Arabs had taken over the village. They murdered everyone in horrific ways. She was in the house where the terrorists were using as their headquarters, and she survived. Again, we have the power to create miracles. Now, obviously, sometimes we're not realizing because sometimes other people are doing the spiritual arsenal and other people are just the physical manifestation of those miracles. A man happened to know the area of the festival incredibly well. He had started a farm right there, a few kilometers away. And he heard right away in the morning what happened. He was not far. He's a retired cop, knows how to use a gun, ran to the scene, not thinking of his own life at all, grabbed everyone he could to put in his car to save them, shooting the terrorists along the way, ran out of his own bullets and took a rifle from a dead Arab and went back again and went back again and went back again and saved 120 people. Doesn't make sense. Impossible. Who knows what spiritual things people were doing that he was able to do this. A woman tells a story. It was in one of the villages where the Arabs were going from door to door massacring and grabbing and kidnapping. And she saw them coming. She saw them by her neighbor's house. And she was alone with her children. She had nothing. They didn't have any guns. She went to the kitchen. She took knives. She gave each of her children a knife. And then she said to God, if you spare us, I'll keep the Shabbos. And the Arabs did what they did in her neighbor's house and walked past her house and went to the house of the neighbor next to her. And all day, the Arabs are going back and forth, and they keep not walking right by and not going into her house. And she and her children were spared. Unbelievable, but true. Told you the army plane that got shot down by anti-aircraft missiles, which should blow up on the spot. Somehow it didn't. Somehow the pilot landed it. Everyone jumped out, 50 soldiers plus the crew, and then it got shot again by another missile. It completely blew up. And not one person was hurt. Not one person. They all were out. Doesn't make any sense. A man, Dolev, a young man, he keeps the Shabbos. He's kept the Shabbos for 5 years. He lives in the north, and he was going with his friends to the festival. Amazing festival. And he was the one in charge of arranging transportation. He rented a minibus to seat 20 plus people. They drove down to the festival. And it's Friday. And Dolev is thinking, if I stay for Saturday, I'll desecrate the Sabbath. I've kept the Sabbath. I've kept the Shabbos for 5 years. I can't stay. But how do I leave? Well, I have the minibus. I have the keys. I rented it. Yeah, but if I leave, I've got 20 friends that are going to be stuck here. And if I force them all to come with me, they're all going to be mad. We're missing Saturday of the festival. He didn't know what to do. And he said, I cannot desecrate the Sabbath. I've kept the Shabbos for 5 years. And he told his friends, listen, guys, I know you'd be really mad at me, but I can't stay for Saturday. I keep the Sabbath. I'm going home. If you want, come with me. If you want, find yourself another ride. They were all furious, but they didn't want to deal with another ride. So all 20 of them went with him. And therefore, he and all 20 of his friends were spared the massacre that happened on Saturday at that festival. His keeping the Shabbos spared his life and 20 of his friends. A soldier, this is on the first day of the battle on Saturday. His name is Ziv Tal. He and his unit were sent to Kibbutz Be'eri, where the Arabs had taken over very violently, and there was a lot of fighting, and a bullet went straight into his chest. And he felt it. He felt the bullet. He felt it. He felt the heat. He put his hand on his chest. He saw the blood. He knew he was fatally shot. And he just went to the side. He knew he was going to die. And he didn't die. And he's just there, waiting for, it didn't happen. And then the other soldiers see him. There's still a lot of violent fighting. And they try to pull him away and they take him to paramedics, and the paramedics check him and they say, well, I don't know, you seem fine, but we can see you were shot in the chest. Let's put you on a stretcher, get you into a helicopter, take you to an army hospital. And he's like, this feels really weird. I feel fine. They're like, you were shot in the chest. Get him in a helicopter. They get him to an army hospital and they check him and all of his vitals are fine. And he's, I don't know, maybe this is a mistake. They're like, oh, we see the bullet wound. We have to take an x-ray of your chest. They took an x-ray. The bullet went through his lungs without leaving any symptoms or problems, and it stopped a half a centimeter from his aorta. It just stopped there. Just went and stopped. Pierced his lungs, stopped a half a centimeter, 0.2 millimeter. And the doctor said, I never saw this before. There's no damage to your lungs. The bullet stopped. If it had continued 0.2 millimeter, who knows what created that miracle? We don't know. But we thank God, and we know that everything we're doing, everything we've done, and everything we're doing, that's the real news. That's the reality of the situation. And it's very easy to watch and read and get very disheartened, confused, sad, not healthy spaces. We want to know we're creating the real news. How they got this soldier out, we don't know. But there's a lot of spiritual arsenal we're putting out there, and God's using it. I wanted to talk about Mashiach because people are asking this question. Is this the road to Mashiach? Is Mashiach supposed to come through war and horror and bloodshed? There's a concept the sages speak of called Milchemes Gog Umagog, the final catastrophic war, the war to end all wars, ultimate destruction, ultimate violence. Is that the road? Is that what's happening now? And is this war and violence and horror leading to redemption? So according to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the answer to all that is no. That is not the road to redemption. The road to redemption is not horror, is not bloodshed, is not destruction, is not violence. Our road to redemption is goodness and kindness and more goodness and more kindness, and that's the road. So if our road to redemption isn't horror and bloodshed, it's goodness and kindness, does this connect to what's happening now? And the answer is yes, it does. Because there's a lot of beauty coming out now. There's so much unity. As I said, if you would see the videos of how this entire city is rejoicing, how the Jewish people are rejoicing. There's video after video of people doing everything they can for each other. All these different organizations and all these different individuals doing anything they can think of to help each other. It is unbelievable. It just brings me to tears. And then I see another video and it brings me to tears. And I see another video and it brings me to tears. There's so much love. It's so palpable. People doing anything they can. I saw a woman was saying, reaching out to women whose husbands are at war, I'll do your laundry. I'll pick it up. I'll do it. I'll deliver it back. Tell me where you live. I'll get it from you. Like, to that degree. And thing after thing after thing, it's just there's an organization that their motto is, together we will be victorious. Meaning, it's not like, well, there's the soldiers, there's the captives, there's the families of the hostages, and then there's the rest of us. No. Together we will be victorious. We're all in this together, and every one of us is thinking, what can we do to help every one of us? And it's so tangible. And that is such a power to bring redemption. So many mitzvahs are being done. So many people are lighting candles that never lit before, are putting on tefillin that never put on before. There's a Chabad person that goes to a hospital and he asks, the people on staff to put on. And there's a doctor who always refuses. So it's refused for so many years. Let's be honest, right or wrong, the Chabad man doesn't ask him anymore. Hasn't asked him for years. And now, at this time, the doctor went over to that person and said, I want to put on tefillin. He said, you want to put on tefillin? And he said, if they're killing us because we're Jewish, I need to connect to being a Jew. So much happening. So what are we supposed to believe now? We're supposed to believe that we are done with the bad, that it's going to be good, it's going to be beyond amazing. Every hostage is going to be safe and freed. Every Jew in the world is going to be protected. The land of Israel is safe with real peace, and God's bringing Mashiach. We deserve it. Now, there's an amazing prophecy I saw that actually connects this war to the redemption. I have to give credit. My husband saw this and he shared it with me. And it's unbelievable. And I haven't heard anyone else speak about it. So probably nobody knows it but us now. This is from the most famous prophecy of Yeshaya, of Isaiah the prophet. In chapter 11 of Isaiah is probably the most famous prophecy about Mashiach, about the redemption. It opens up and a sprout will spring forth from the stem of Yishai. Very famous words. The wolf will lie with the lamb. The child will play by the snake hole. Verse after verse, very, very famous. And there's one verse there that seemingly is talking about this war. And that is verse 14. Listen to the words. These are the words of that verse, the beginning of the verse. And they will fly together against the Plishtim to the west. That's how the verse opens. The verse concludes. Opening words are not so famous. People didn't really relate to it. Like, what's really that talking about? They're going to fly, Plishtim, the west. People didn't really relate to it. The end of the verse is very famous, alluding to 3 of the biblical ancestral lands of Israel that we never received and will only receive by the redemption. The famous words that this verse ends with are, Edom and Moab shall they stretch forth their hand, and the children of Ammon shall obey them. Let me unpack this verse for you because it's amazing. The first words of the verse perhaps are talking about this war. And the final words of the verse are talking about us receiving all the lands of Israel that we never even got yet. So let's hear those first words again. And they will fly together against the Plishtim to the west. If you want to look this up, this is in Isaiah, Yeshaya, chapter 11, verse 14. And they will fly together against the Plishtim to the west. So Rashi, as we've already mentioned Rashi several times tonight, Rashi explains on these words, and they will fly together, that the Jews will be very united, and they will fly and run. Now, this is very interesting, because Rashi wrote this in medieval France. So when Rashi wrote that the verse is saying that the Jews will fly, I don't know what he was thinking that means. I don't know if he knew what it meant. But we know what it means because for the past 3 weeks, that's how we've been fighting. We've been flying there. We've been dropping bombs, dropping missiles. We've been flying, and now we're running. Now we're going in with infantry. Now we're going in with the ground army. So they will fly and run together. The verse is emphasizing the Jewish people will be united. We are experiencing that unity in an unimaginable measure. Is it 100%? It might not be 100%, but it's the highest I've ever experienced my whole life. So, and they will fly together. The Jews will fly. That's what Rashi says. And will run together. What are they going to do? To conquer the land, the verse says, in the west. Now, I don't know if you actually know the map of Israel to even know where the land of Gaza is. This strip of land that, of course, is our land, that the Jewish government, for some inconceivable reason, gave away to the Arabs some 15 plus years ago. But it's the western boundary. It's as west as you can get. If you went any further west, you'd be in the Mediterranean Sea. So when Isaiah says, and they will fly together against the Plishtim to the west. Plishtim. Very interesting because that's what these people call themselves. This aberration of the word Plishtim is where we get the term Palestinian, Palestine. Now, are these people Palestinians? Who knows where that name comes from? Who knows where they got it from? But the original source of this so-called ethnicity of Palestinians is Plishtim. And this is actually where the Plishtim lived, along that western boundary. So if you look at this verse, these few words, it's like unbelievable. And they will fly, yes, we will fly, we will run. Together, yes, we are so together. Against the Plishtim, that's these modern day Plishtim Palestinians, that's what they call themselves, to the west. This is the western boundary of Israel. Now it's confusing sometimes because you've probably heard of the term the West Bank, but the West Bank is actually the eastern land of Israel. The north is actually northeast. But these Palestinians in Gaza are on the west. So when Isaiah is saying, and they will fly together against the Plishtim to the west, maybe this is what he's talking about. Maybe this is the beginning of the amazing fulfillment of this ancient messianic prophecy. As the verse continues, and as Rashi says, we're going to conquer them. We're flying, we're running, and we're conquering this western coast of the Plishtim. And then the verse goes on to say it's more than that. Again, this is in chapter 11 of Isaiah of Yeshaya, verse 14. It's more than that, because this land of the west was originally ours. Biblically, it was ours, and actually until recent time, it was ours. But there's lands that we never got, though we were supposed to get. Last week's Torah portion, we read it 2 days ago in synagogue. Abraham has promised Israel for the Jewish people. That's the source. That's what we said. Opening Rashi. God created the world. God can give whoever he wants, whatever he wants. And he's giving Israel to the children of Abraham, to the Jewish. In the portion of Lech Lecha that we read Saturday in synagogue, God enumerates 10 nations that comprise then the land of Israel, that he's giving to Abraham's descendants, to Yitzchak, Isaac, to the Jewish people. But we never got 10. We only got 7. When the Jews went in and conquered Israel, 6+ generations later, so to speak, they didn't get 10. They got 7. And we're told right away in Lech Lecha, and Rashi, again, this is Rashi, the classical commentator, explains that even though God here is saying Abraham is going to have for his descendants, for the Jewish people, 10 lands, but God is only going to give us 7 initially, and the final 3 we will get by the redemption. Biblically, in the verses of the portion of Lech Lecha, what we read Saturday in synagogue, those 3 nations are called the Canaanite, Kenizi, and Kadmoni. Rashi on that verse 2 days ago in synagogue, on those words, Keni Knisi Kadmoni, Rashi explains these are the lands taken over by other people that are connected to Abraham, but not the Jewish people. And they're holding the lands temporarily. And we're going to get them back by the redemption. Who are those people that got these lands? 3 other nations. Again, it's not the ancient Keni, Knisi, and Kadmoni. The lands were taken over by people connected to Abraham, but not the Jewish people. The nations of Edom, Moab, and Ammon. Edom is a descendant of Esau, Abraham, Isaac. Isaac has Yaakov and Esau, Jacob and Esau. Esau's nation, Edom. So this is a relationship to Abraham, but not the Jewish people. That's Edom. And Moab and Ammon. Who are Moab and Ammon? They are descendants of Lot, Abraham's nephew. Related to Abraham distantly, not the Jewish people. So God says, Abraham, the Jewish people are going to get 10 lands, but they're going to get 7 originally, and the final 3, Keni, Knisi, Kadmoni, they will get by the redemption. And until that time, I'm going to give those lands to people that have a relationship to you, but not the Jewish people. Edom, descendant of Esau, son of Isaac, son of Abraham, and Ammon and Moab, descendants of Lot, Abraham's nephew. Where are these lands of Edom, Moab, and Ammon, of Keni, Knisi, and Kadmoni? I mean, they're not, as we think of ancestral Israel, because we never got them. They are east, what they would call today Transjordan. East of the Jordan River, the south, if we would think of the border of Israel, the northern east lands, meaning east of the Jordan, the northern half, parallel to the northern Israel, we did get originally. Those were the lands of Sichon and Og, and the Jews got them when they entered Israel. So we're talking about the land south of that. So Transjordan, east of the Jordan River, the southern part of the land of Israel, going vastly, enormous stretches of land east of the Transjordan and the southern part of the map of Israel. And actually it's very interesting because the Lubavitcher Rebbe, in the last talk we have to date of Lech Lecha, which was in the fall of 1991, the Lubavitcher Rebbe says that of course there's people living there now, but these people will give us the land from their goodwill because they'll know it's ours. So again, Transjordan, east of the Jordan River, the southern half of, as we review today, the land of Israel, going tremendous stretches of land very, very, very far east. Now, what's the verse that we're basing this on? We're basing it on this same verse I'm talking about. Isaiah, Yeshaya, chapter 11, verse 14. The first half of that verse is talking about this war, flying and running together, the Jews united to conquer that western edge of their land that was taken over by the Palestinians, the Philistines. And then the verse continues, and then Edom, Moab, and Ammon, you're going to get their lands as well. Again, what the lands of Edom, Moab, and Ammon? The lands of the Keni, Knisi, and Kadmoni, the lands that are ancestral lands to Abraham's descendants, to the Jewish people, but we never got, but we're going to get by the redemption. And that's what's alluded to in the ending words of that verse, where it speaks of Edom and Moab shall they stretch forth their hand, and the children of Ammon shall obey them. Edom, Moab, and Ammon, having taken over the lands of the Keni, Knisi, and Kadmoni, and these lands will be returned to their rightful owners who never ever had them, to the Jewish people. And as Lubavitcher Rebbe says, willingly, they will give us their lands because they'll know it's our lands by the redemption. So when I saw this, I was so awed. I was so amazed. It was just unbelievable to me that we're looking at this situation. I'm looking at this situation as this horrible situation, but we're putting out a lot of spiritual arsenal, and it's going to be good, and it's going to be amazing, and it's God, and God's protecting, and every Jew is God's only child, and it's going to be good, even though normally it wouldn't be good, but there's a God, so it's going to be amazing, and it's going to be bigger than Entebbe and bigger than the 6-Day War, and it's going to be amazing because God loves each and every Jew. But when I saw this prophecy, and I'm like, could it be? Is it possible that this war is bigger than all that? Is it possible that this war is fulfilling this ancient messianic prophecy of how the redemption will unfold. And the redemption will unfold with the Jewish people flying and running and united and conquering this land on their western border, the land of the Philistines. It's just an amazing, 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 empowering thought that this is very possibly what Isaiah was talking about. The road to redemption, the road to receive, as the verse continues, the ancestral lands we never received of the Canaanite, and Cammonium, Edom, and Ammon, of east of the Transjordan. So it's just unbelievable. And what do we do to make all this happen? We believe in it. We believe we are walking the road to redemption. We share the good news with others. Again, many people are connecting these events to the redemption, but in a more fear-based way. We don't want to go the road of fear. Any negative thing we've already gone through. Above and beyond, we do not need any more negative signs of redemption. We're done with that. But to really hold on to this and to really add in good, of course, as we've been saying, add in good to create the spiritual arsenal that will allow God to make such miracles as he has. And there's more and more and more. I shared a few earlier, and I could go on and on and on, but I don't know what you've heard and want to hear, and but there's so many. But more than that, more than creating the spiritual arsenal for the miracles that will save every hostage and destroy the evil, to create redemption. Do those things that create redemption, because that's maybe what this is all about. Learning about redemption creates redemption. Giving charity with the intention to bring redemption creates redemption, and so many other things. So I don't know where people are holding with all of this. I don't know what you've heard and how you've processed, but to me, it's an amazing way to reframe everything that's going on and really reframe it as redemption. And that's the most beautiful way we can look at this. That's the most amazing way we can look at this. And that's really what I think should be our road, to really, really, really try and see it in its best way, not as redemption because it's so horrible. You can have that feeling also, like, oh my gosh, boy, we need redemption because I don't think anything else could save the situation. But redemption because we're creating it, because we're united, because we're doing so much good, and because this very much resonates, this prophecy of Isaiah about redemption. So what are your thoughts on all this? I know we've heard in the past weeks beautiful things people are doing to inspire other people. Let's fill in. Any thoughts of this connecting to redemption, or what you've been doing to try to help create this spiritual arsenal? And I love when people share, because I know for myself, when people share, it gives me more motivation to do more. So that's why I always ask people to share what they're doing. I would focus personally, if I had the choice between this or that, I would focus on Tehillim, because that power of Tehillim is beyond any other words we can say to God. Though I'm finding it was interesting today when I was davening, when I was praying, and of course there's many verses I've noticed, all the ones talking about like, God, take revenge and protect and don't let anyone hurt us, and then shackle the kings in chains. And I've been focusing on those verses a lot over the past 3 weeks. But for some reason, it took me till today. There was just a thought I kept having the whole time I was praying. And it was, God, show them. Show them your God. Show them we're your chosen people. The whole world should say, oh my gosh, it's the hand of God. And oh my gosh, God is the God of the Jews. So I sort of had this thought the whole time I was praying. And then I came across the verse that said it. Leman das kol amei haaretz, so that the entire world should know Ki Hashem hu Elokim, because God, you are the God. Ain't there's nothing but you. And I'm like, yes, that's what I meant. I knew it was in the prayer book. That's what I meant. Those were the words I was saying in my heart and mind the whole time I was praying, and it's written there. So
what prayer is it?
So that's what I'm saying. I think prayers, it's really good. There's so much in the prayers that are saying everything we want to say. And I think in terms of saying, I feel the most powerful words we can say to God besides our prayers, our psalms, our Tehillim. So powerful. Anyone else?
Hi, Hava. So yes, I'm so grateful that we can read Tehillim 24/7. And I joined 2 groups on WhatsApp, and people all over the world. I don't know, Russia and Israel and all over America and everywhere. So it's never stops. It's like 24/7. We're reading Tehillim in order, right? Like someone says, I'm reading number 1, the next person number 2, and it's like, and we're counting how many books we already read. So one group already 282 books, and then yes, and another group like close to 200. And I don't know, like to me, it's I feel, and each group, I don't know by now, probably like about 400 people. I don't know how many people already join in each of those groups. And it gives me such a feeling of the being part of the very amazing spiritual force that's like never stops 24/7. And it just like made my reading of Tehillim put it totally on a different level.
I understand everything you're saying, and I totally feel it. I think that being part of that group is like such a sense of our power, our real power, our spiritual power. And it's like you're not alone. There's hundreds of people all over the world, and there's actually thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and there's so many groups, and there's so many good things. And that's what I'm saying. It's almost like like you have a smorgasbord, and like some people are going for the mashed potatoes, and some people are going for the sushi, and some people are going for the lax, and some people are going for the deli, and there's so many amazing things. And it's just I'm overwhelmed. It's just amazing what the Jewish people are, who they are, who we are. It's just who we are. I'm saying, I was hearing yesterday this one of the people in charge of this organization called Zaka. This is an organization that deals with the dead bodies. It was just unbelievable hearing what he was saying. Very sad, very painful, but unbelievable sense of, wow, this pride that we are such a special people, that we're doing this. And the people are literally day after day after day. There was someone that we were working 16 days straight, and he had a heart attack because of the strain on his heart, on his emotions of seeing these horrors day after day after day after day, dealing with them. But unbelievable what type of people we are. And they said, seeing all these organizations, the people that are dedicated to putting up mezuzahs, and the people that are dedicated to putting on tefillin, and the people that are dedicated to cooking meals, and the people that are dedicated to creating entertainment and a psychological break for all these people that are displaced, and people that are waiting for their families, and people that lost, and more people and more people and more people. And it's just like, wow, who we are, who the Jewish people are. It is unbelievable. And it's wonderful that you're part of the group, because you just have this sense of who we are. A close friend in Brazil telling me what all the women there in Brazil did, and in this place, and in this place, and in this place, and a woman I'm close to in the Philippines, and everywhere. That's what I'm saying. That's the Jewish people are focused, and the Jewish people are the most powerful force in the world. And if you could join a group like Chava did, it gives you this taste of it. I'm sure you could ask Howard for a link, or there's so many different things. I don't know if
I am already in this group.
You're already in that group. But I'm saying, I Friday they had this, they asked 220 women to separate the challah, do that commandment of separating the challah. For at that time, I thought it was 220 hostages. Now they know it's 239. And just to separate the challah, focus and read and pray for each one of those people. I did it, and it was very powerful. Again, envisioning you as one of over 200 women are all focusing name by name on each of these people. There's another organization that put out, just do a mitzvah, personalized, take on a hostage, do mitzvahs for that hostage. took on one name, then I took on another name, then I took on another name. And again, it's just very powerful connection, thinking these people I don't know, they won't know me, but I know I'm going to be part of their release. I know I'm helping them. And it's such a powerful feeling.